welcome to another episode of Mayhem, Murder, and the Macabre. I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Angie.
And tonight we are joined by our co-host, Jimmy and JoJo.
There's Jimmy.
Come here, Joe.
And I think that's JoJo's tail.
Hi,
There's
JoJo.
Joe.
Here's sweet Joe.
This is Jimmy. Hi, buddy. Hey.
JoJo loves earrings. She is absolutely a girl's girl. So
She just loves her Aunt Jennifer. That's what it is.
feelings mutual. The feelings mutual, baby. Okay, so if you're listening to us on the podcast, if you're listening to us on the podcast, and you guys have heard all about Jimmy and JoJo, and you've heard them. So if you decide that this season you need to see who they are, just switch on over to the YouTube channel.
And they're a lot.
You can see them in all their glory.
Yes. JoJo.
Apparently my ears
This
need
is how we
cleaning.
live our life. These dogs.
So this is take two. We tried to record last night. We had torrential rains, lightning, thunder, terrible wind, tornado warnings. It was just crazy. It was really pretty though. There was a great light show going on behind us for you all. But we're having some lighting issues. We ordered a light. It came. It does not work. So we decided that maybe we should try again. So I'm sorry you don't get the light display. We will try our best to make it as good as possible though. Also, I apologize for having a peppermint in my mouth. The fact that it was 50 degrees yesterday and it literally snowed in the upstate today.
A little bit.
We are
And a
doing,
few minutes ago, it was sleeting
it was
outside.
sleeting. So we do these 20-degree swings in South Carolina, and we cover 4 seasons in 2 days, and it's quite interesting.
Sometimes
if you,
we cover them in one day.
yeah, in a few hours. And it's nice if you enjoy the change of seasons, and I do. But as we've said to you guys before, the change of seasons, our sinuses and allergies don't always enjoy the change of seasons. So I'm struggling a little bit. So in an attempt to not cough all over the place, I do have in a peppermint, and I apologize.
We're real sad that Lisa Marie Presley passed away yesterday.
That was a shock. Very untimely, and I know there just seems to be a lot of that going on, and it's, I don't know. But in other news, Ye got married.
Which I was so shocked.
Angie is super excited about that. However,
Well,
she
no.
is devastated that her invitation was lost in the mail because they are like this.
I love Ye.
Angie and Ye. She's going to be his running mate. Vice president. Right here.
West Garden ticket.
Absolutely. First female vice president. So before I get in any more trouble.
Well, and tonight, my second chin didn't come along with me tonight. You just can't see it. It's there. You just can't
It's
see it
just
from
tucked
this
away.
angle.
We've tucked all that away.
And I have my bedrock called and says, "Send Pebbles back."
Bam, bam, and Pebbles.
Was it Bam Bam?
No, it was Pebbles.
Okay.
Bam Bam was the boy.
Pebbles has the.
Sorry.
Oh no, what am I doing?
You had a loop of hair through your.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't have that problem. I have short hair. But also, if you recall, excuse me, we talked about getting comfortable while we recorded Angie's, and I'm always cold, so Angie was kind enough to let me borrow a blanket. So all you're gonna get of me tonight is a head. I apologize. Hope you're okay with it. Jimmy's okay with it. He settled in over
That's
here.
Joe. Oh,
JoJo's okay with it. She settled in over here.
this is Jimmy right here.
I know, but I'm not used to him just being like chill like that.
I know, but don't get used to that because they'll be wild in a minute.
Excuse me. Well, I mean, when the ghost shows up, I think there's an apparition in Angie's house because the dogs keep barking.
See?
Like, they keep growling and barking.
But we have 2 cats also. So I'm thinking that maybe they see the cats. Jennifer keeps saying the cats aren't down here. And my husband's out of town, and now I'm scared.
So I'm going to probably stay tonight.
I need somebody. she didn't even know my name.
I didn't.
Tonight she's spending the night.
I know. I didn't know who you were. Most days I don't know who I am. It is February the 13th. No, it is
No.
Friday the 13th.
Yes, Friday.
Friday the 13th. And it has lived up to the torture of the day. I mean, it has just been a day. I think everybody's going crazy. They're trying to drag me, kicking and screaming with them. Now we got ghosts in the house. I kept biting the inside of my mouth.
It's a lot.
It's been a lot.
We've got the puppies.
I had to work an hour late. No.
She did though.
I did work an hour late, but I didn't have to. I have very dear clients that were in, and I wanted to do my job to the best of my ability, and so that's what I tried to do. So, anyway, let's do a recap. I'll try to make it quick because, like I said, time is money.
We don't get paid to do this. I don't know what she's
This
talking
is just
about.
for fun. No, because the boys keep going, nobody's going to watch a YouTube video that's more than 30 minutes long, so I have to watch
My
the
husband
now.
didn't watch it for 5 minutes. He said, I'll watch some of it. I was like, okay. Thanks, honey.
You guys keep this up. We might trade you in for more supportive spouses. I'm just saying. Not really. Okay. So anyway, I did say season 2, episode 2, right? If anybody's keeping up with it. So Herman Webster Mudgett was the third of 5 children, born to very normal, hardworking parents. He was born May 16th of 1861. Very intelligent, well schooled, not so much
Sorry.
they're after the ghost. Not so much of a social butterfly. He was kind of awkward with other people, but he was very intelligent. Graduated at the age of 16, began teaching, and while he was teaching, at the age of 17, he met Clara Loverly. They married, and on February 3rd, 1880, they had a son. Herman started working as a clerk in her uncle's supermarket. But he decided that after the birth of his son, he kind of decided that he wanted a job. He felt like that was kind of beneath him, and he wanted a job that he could do, and I guess feel better about himself. So he started a medical apprenticeship with Dr. Norm White.
I don't think that's really, I think that's kind of normal, because when you have kids, I think you want to,
A grown-up job.
well, and, to better yourself if you can.
No, I agree. But I do think he kind of envisioned himself as being quite superior. So I do think that's where some of that came from.
Right.
But he starts his apprenticeship, and Dr. White was specialized in human dissection. So from the best I can figure, Dr. White was actually a maybe like a forensic pathologist or a coroner, something to
That's
that
what I
degree.
think. Yeah.
But during this time is apparently where some of this awkward
Yes.
obsession with the human body and all that kind of started. He leaves Dr. White's care and he enrolls in the University of Vermont. At this time, he's living like a single man,
He's dating, even though he's married.
Yes. Starts doing some strange things with some corpses as far as experimenting. He does end up returning to his wife and son, takes more teaching jobs, gets in trouble for being abusive with students, goes back to medical school at the University of Michigan. The wife and son go with him at this point. She kind of decides that he's not really the husband that she wants. He's beating her.
And he's dating other people.
So she decides to head back home with the son, returns to New Hampshire. But she was the financial support in this marriage. So now he's going to have to live his life more
Frugally.
this is not okay with a man that thinks himself as a bit more than everyone else. So, his boarding house in Michigan, we talked about this, was across the street from the graveyard. And we start seeing him rob the graves. He's selling them to the medical school for money.
And like I said, I always thought grave robbing was that you stole like their jewelry and their teeth and things like
Right.
that. Apparently, not in this case.
Well, there must have been good money.
It was a whole body.
Mm-hmm. And there must have been good money.
Mm-hmm.
And in the the business of whatever.
Yeah.
So
just not.
no, stop robbing the graves. The medical universities have plenty of cadavers. They don't need for you to sell them anymore. There are people that do that legally. Okay. So he ends up leaving school and heading to New York. In New York, he's teaching school and working as a physician. Again, different times because most doctors today don't need a side hustle. He did. But in New York, he's known for running a lot of scams. One of the things that
I think he's known for that just about everywhere he
through
goes.
everywhere he lands, that tends to be the generalization that people end up with. It does seem that he is scamming insurance companies. So, like we talked about, his patients would make him one of the beneficiaries on their life insurance policy, and he would present evidence to the insurance company that that patient was dead, and then he would collect the check.
It was very confusing for me because the patient's not dead.
No.
I'm not sure I have caught up with that yet, but anyway.
Yeah, I would
Whatever
like,
he was doing was not legal.
it was not legal. So in 1885, he suddenly leaves New York with a trail of debt behind him. And after this point, he begins using several aliases, and he's most well known for the alias that we know him by, which is Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, or H.H. Holmes. People, again, wanted to know, why did we start with this one? If you were with us last season, we covered crimes in South Carolina, and that was kind of a nod to our home state. This season, we knew we wanted to branch out. There's still crimes for us to cover here, so we will. But we knew we
They'll
wanted.
pop up every now and again.
We knew we wanted to branch out because there's so much more to explore. The rest of the country, the rest of the world. But we thought, well, what better place to start than with this man, because the term serial killer was created for him.
Okay.
We had never used that term before, but we had never seen a monster like this.
Right.
So at this point, that term is created and it is assigned to him.
Yep.
All right, so he moves to PA, starts a job in a mental institution, starts running scams.
He probably should have been a patient.
Starts running, trying to scam the insurance companies. This is where we really see him kind of hone that skill. And then he meets Murda Belknap, who he marries despite not being divorced. They have a child, and, you know, he actually, I think with her was kind of good for a little while until he just couldn't be good anymore, which seems to be a
Well, he
thing
wanted
with
to
him.
date again. And
Yeah, she was kind of,
Murder was dragging him down.
she was cramping his style. He actually was good with her until she had their daughter, which we'll get into.
I think a lot of men are that way.
I do too.
I mean,
Well, I think that bringing a child into a marriage, or in this case, a fake marriage, but I think there's a lot of stress that goes with that, and I think sometimes the stress tears the couple apart. a lot of times one partner gets jealous of the attention
child.
that the child is receiving, and it drives a wedge. So I'm not really sure if that's what happened or
Or
I don't know.
he just, well, now he's a polygamist.
right.
He's a scoundrel. He's a polygamist. He's not a killer yet.
Not that we know of.
We're getting there. So
He's progressing. He's evolving.
He is evolving in his craft.
He's evolving. But during this time, he takes over the Holton pharmacy. And the rumor is that Mrs. Holton is an elderly woman. Her husband, Dr. Holton, is very sick and confined to the upstairs apartment. And Holmes goes in to help her. And then one day they disappear. And the rumor is that he killed them. And remember, we talked about in a situation like this, it's hard to separate fact from fiction. People tend to sensationalize the stories. He did not kill them.
Right.
In fact, there was no elderly husband. This couple was about the same age as Holmes. He had known the wife in medical school. She was the doctor, not the husband. Like I said, no one was sick. She became pregnant with her second child and decided that she wanted to focus on raising her family, get to a little more simplistic lifestyle. She wanted to sell the business. Holmes said, of course, I'll take it, run it for you. I'll buy it and run it for you. He buys the business, but he does it on false credit with somebody else's name. But, I mean...
Was it Myrna's name? Myrna?
I don't know, because it seems that he bought the business and that went through and no one was...
The wiser.
Yeah. So, anyway, so he starts building his castle, and this is the summer of 1887. And we talked about there being hidden compartments and trapdoors, and he would only hire people for a week at a time because he didn't want them to know what was happening inside the castle.
Plus, he didn't pay them.
He did not pay them, and he's buying things on credit, and then he's not paying for those, and he's hiding them in the castle, and I mean, it's just, lawsuits are mounting.
Puppies are drinking water. That's what that
It's
weird
water
sound is.
time. Okay, so we talked about him being fairly loyal to Myrna. On July 4th, 1889, Myrna had a baby girl, Holmes' second child, Lucy Theodate Holmes. Despite caring Holmes' mother's name, he had little to do with his family, and his mother wasn't even aware that the child existed until she was 6 years of age. She also had no idea that Holmes had
More than one wife.
remarried, because she was still in contact with Holmes' first wife.
Who's
So.
still his wife, right?
Yes, she's still his wife. I mean, probably to this day, because they never
Right.
divorced.
Yeah.
So to this day,
She's still
his
listed
wife.
as his spouse.
Correct. Anyway, this marriage, Holmes actually managed, like I said, to be faithful for a few years, but it began an affair not long after the birth of his daughter. Julia Connor was the wife of Ned Connor. Now, Ned went to work for Holmes in one of his businesses, and as he did, he had them move into the tenant quarters above the shops. So when they built if you guys recall me saying, in this particular building that he had built, it was a basement, first level was shops, street level shops. Above that was a second floor that was apartments for the tenants. And then a whole bunch of weird stuff that you've heard about. And we'll talk about that too. So, Ned and Julia move in to the second story, and they move in with their young daughter, Pearl. So, Holmes, doing what Holmes does, has this new conquest in the building.
He's dating again.
And Ned claims that Holmes began pursuing his wife as soon as they moved in. He even offered Julia a clerk's job in one of his stores. So typically what would happen was Holmes was too important, obviously, to train these people in these menial jobs. She would have someone else do it. Well, it stood out to Ned that in this particular situation, Holmes insisted on training Julia. He showed her a lot of special attention.
I'm sure he did.
So she starts the job and then begins the affair. Soon after the start of the affair, Julia's marriage to Ned ends. Ned moves out of the building, but Julia stays, continuing her affair and even becoming involved in several of Holmes' scams. And her name actually appears on quite a few of the lawsuits because he is now putting things in her name in order to scam investors and insurance companies. It's also rumored that Holmes had an affair with Ned's younger sister, Gertie.
Keep it in the family.
She was also employed by Holmes. Yeah.
Apparently you had to, like, have an affair with him to work there.
I wonder if that was part of, like, the job
the
interview.
Training manual.
How badly do you want this job?
Yeah.
It's a lot like getting a job in Hollywood.
It is an awful lot like that.
How much do you want this job? Anyway, we digress. So, interestingly enough, Julia, Gertie, and Pearl go missing. And there's this big mystery that swirls around them missing. But what we do know is that Gertie died of heart disease on July 18th, 1891 at the ripe old age of 22. That was Gertie.
I don't think that's unusual for that
I
time
don't either.
anyway.
I don't either. But that's Gertie. Remember, that was Ned Connor's. Every time
that was his sister, right?
That was his sister, his little sister. Every time I read Ned Connors, I think of Groundhog Day. Ned Connors? Is that you?
I don't think I've ever seen that movie. It's lost on me.
It's one of those movies that drives me absolutely batty, but every time it's on, I find myself watching it. But there's a character in there named Ned Connors.
So you were watching Pirates of the Caribbean last night, right?
My husband informed me devastating news that he'd only seen the first one.
Yeah.
So.
Who is he even?
Right. He's not related to me. We do not live in the same household. And then he talked about it being his favorite ride at Disney, and I was like, no. Can't be your favorite ride at Disney because you haven't seen the whole franchise.
Right. And I think they took Johnny Depp out.
They did. Well, so that's actually what started it, was we saw an advertisement for it, and I said, I still can't believe they took Johnny Depp out. And he goes, what do you mean they took Johnny Depp out? And I was like, yeah, they fired him with the Amber Heard thing, which, first of all, Disney, ridiculous.
Dummy.
Innocent until proven guilty.
Correct.
But whatever.
It's Sauvage. It's still the #1 cologne out there. They didn't fire him.
They didn't. And, anyway, so, and I mean, really, Disney, like, you've got enough PR nightmares.
Yeah.
That you probably don't need to worry about Johnny Depp destroying your reputation. I'm just throwing that out there. But anyway, so he couldn't believe it, and he said he'd never seen anything but the first one. So now
You're caught up.
Oh no, we've seen 1 and 2,
Oh, okay.
and we're working our way through it this weekend. So yep, there you go. Totally off subject.
I know. I don't know why I brought that up.
I thought I was the one with ADD.
I know. I've caught it now.
It's spreading. Okay, so like I said, Gertie died. Julia and Pearl, however, did disappear without a trace. That was in December of the same year. Now remember, we're talking about 1881, and I want to point that out because this man is a clearly smooth talker and a fast mover.
And he's not cute.
No.
I mean,
It's not that bad, but he's not my cup of tea. He's not my cup of tea. He's no Johnny Depp.
no, he is not.
He is no Matthew McConaughey.
It's my other favorite.
He's not. So anyway, but he does seem to have some pull with the ladies. I mean, he must be a smooth criminal for reals because he moves fast. So Julia's removed. Try that again. Julia's room remained untouched and unleased for about 4 months, but it is said that when Holmes actually did show the apartment for people interested in leasing it, he didn't bother to clean the apartment or do anything to it. There was an uneaten meal that remained on the table, the bed was unmade, and Julia's belongings and Pearl's toys were everywhere.
I guess that just went along with the price of the rent.
He was creating a lived-in atmosphere. You know how like when you're trying to sell your house,
Yeah.
they're like baked cookies?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it gives people the vibe.
Well, I mean, now that I know, if we ever sell our house, I just won't clean up.
There you go. And tell them it's haunted.
You keep saying that.
You can charge extra for the ghost.
My husband would try it. Believe me.
Okay, so Holmes actually explained these things by saying that she left in a hurry after learning that her sister was dying. The truth of the matter is, apparently Julia was getting married.
Like, for real?
That's what everybody says.
I don't think that's for real.
But she never made it to her own wedding.
Again, because I don't think it's real.
Holmes then offered Julia's possessions to the new tenant. It's like, oh, this place comes furnished with pots and pans and clothes. I hope you're a size 12 as light floral. And
if you have a baby,
that Jack in the Box over here is yours too. Like, you offer me a Jack in the Box, no, the deal's off. We're done. I hate those things.
Me too.
Sorry, Jack in the Box makers.
Yeah.
So, for years, Holmes kept telling that same story that Julia and Pearl were alive, but it is widely believed that they were actually among his first victims. Later, he did confess to killing Julia, but he also denied that he killed Julia, saying that she was still alive. So it just kind of depended on what day you caught him, what day you talked to him, what kind of mood he was in. Sometimes he would say, during the times that he was confessing, he would say that she died during a botched abortion that he had performed, that she had become pregnant with his child, and he performed an abortion on her and she died during that.
What about the baby, Pearl?
He never offered an explanation as to what happened to her or how she might have died. But remember, he would say that, and then the next day he would say, no, they're alive. They're alive and well. I didn't kill them.
Yeah, it's the clock. People who have been listening know about the clock.
Oh yeah, the clock is almost famous. Is also famous. Almost. If it could be on camera, it would totally be famous.
It would,
yeah.
But see,
then we'd have to turn the camera, and it's like,
yeah,
I'm warm now, except for this one arm, because it's not warm.
And I was holding on to this pillow because now that you can't see my second chin, I don't want you to see my second stomach.
It's really because it's a Craig Conover pillow. For those of you that watch Southern Charm, this is a Sewing Down South pillow, and Angie loves Craig Conover.
I do.
So she really just wanted to, we said we weren't going to promote products that we didn't believe in, but as you can see,
I believe in you, Craig.
In her house, she owns Craig Conover Sewing Down South pillows. So check him out. Okay. Moving along. Oh, you did say you wanted to start. Did you say he's cute?
Mm-hmm.
She does think he's cute.
He is cute.
He's cute. He's just a little extra.
His attitude's not cute sometimes,
but it's okay. I can be extra too. Craig and I probably would be great friends because we're each extras.
Probably.
So So, you said that we needed to start singing in the show. I feel like I like you all better than to do that to you.
I think I did say that, but I don't know that I meant it.
She said it. She said it today.
Oh, I did? Well, there we go.
You said that we would be famous.
I'm not going to sing.
If we sang in the show, and I was like, we wouldn't be famous. Nobody would ever tune in. They might for you, but they're not gonna for me. Anyway, okay. So now, so remember I talked to you about times because I said I wanted you to remember how quickly he worked. That was December. Don't have an exact date. December of 1891 that Julia and little Pearl went missing. December, month 12. I'm making a big deal of that because in May of the following year, month 5,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
Emmeline Sagrand.
Yeah, I like that name.
We
Emmeline.
do like the
We were
name
talking about
Emmeline.
that.
That's really pretty. But Emmeline began working for Holmes. She never actually lived in the building.
Good for her.
That was just taking it a little too far.
Yeah, right.
However, she was believed to have been one of Holmes's lovers. I was pointing at Angie because last night she actually beat me to the punch and said it, and I thought she was going to play it. She didn't read my
I
mind.
missed my key.
Yeah, she didn't read my mind.
This is why I'm not an actress.
Emmeline started telling friends and family that she was engaged to be married to Mr. Phelps, who is believed to have been Holmes.
I'm a little confused with that.
5 months
Yeah.
after the disappearance,
He's moved on.
he's engaged. Although he's still married to wife number 1
And number
wife
2.
number 2. Yeah. So anyway, okay. On December 7th, 1892, there was a wedding date. That was her wedding date. But she disappeared shortly before the date. A lot of disappearances with this one. When Holmes was questioned about her whereabouts, he stated that she had left to get married, even producing announcement cards stating that the wedding had occurred. But she was never seen or heard from again.
I wonder what
Emmeline.
Mr. Phelps thought.
Emma, well, why didn't he ever go to the police and say, I'm so worried about my bride?
I know, she never showed up. And who wouldn't want to marry Mr. Phelps?
Right. There's a lot of runaway brides in this story, too.
There's
Just
just
so you know.
a lot of
Disappearance, a lot of runaway brides, cold feet. It's terrible. Emmeline's family, however, did receive several typed. Dead cold.
Mr. Dead.
Her family did.
Stop it.
Babe. I'm usually the troublemaker.
We have my favorite restaurant for supper tonight, so I'm just all happy.
Okay, so anyway. Her family did receive several typed letters from her, but it is widely thought that those letters, because they were typed, that they were sent from Holmes. So in December of, I guess, tiring of marrying or being engaged and then disappearing women, in 1892, Holmes decided to add a 3rd floor to the Holmes Castle with the purpose of housing guests for the 1893 World Fair, which was taking place in Chicago, only a few miles away. The construction meant that the building now boasted the 3 stories, like we said, the basement, the street level, which was the shops, the tenants' quarters, which was the 2nd floor, 3rd if you count the basement, and then now this new floor, which was going to serve as like a hotel, if you will. However, keep in mind that the apartments on the 2nd floor And the rooms on the third floor featured things like gas chambers, secret rooms, secret hallways, hidden stairs. The chutes that he could just put a body in and it would fall down to the basement.
That just scares me.
Yeah, it was crazy. However, the workmanship was so terrible that the rooms were barely fit for habitation, and therefore homes ended up using this third floor as office space. Most of the building was obtained through fraudulent loans, and most of it hadn't actually been paid for. So the lawsuits continued to mount.
Yep.
Creditors began to fight back, and when looking for the often missing possessions, they started finding hidden rooms, false ceilings, and hiding places. The items that homes had not already sold would show up being hidden in these places. Excuse me. The building and its secrets made the paper, and subsequently homes lost interest in it. So he began building another home in Willamette for Murda and Lucy. But, question, how did he pay for another home?
Well, and how did he choose Murda and Lucy?
Well, that was his wife and child, current.
But don't other people deserve a house too that he's married to? Oh, you know, the first one.
Clara had her own money.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's what that
she
was.
take care of
about.
herself. He wouldn't worry about her. But how he paid for it was the same way that he had paid for all of these ventures, and that was by using the name of his latest lover. No. Minnie. Meet Minnie Rayford Williams. She was a highly intelligent, very well educated orphan, but she grew up with numerous relatives and guardians, which led to her inheriting a great deal of money. Financial fortune smiled on Minnie time and time again, and in 1892, when she inherited again following her brother's death in an accident. Minnie was also a landowner in Fort Worth, Texas, making her extremely wealthy. In 1893, she moved to Chicago, where Holmes employed her as his secretary. Now, mind you, she was the secretary of a false company, a fraudulent company, if you will. And in true... I had a dog. Yeah. I had a dog here.
Oh. I'm not surprised.
In true H.H. Holmes fashion, she became his lover.
Shocking.
By the spring of 1893, Minnie was informing family and friends that she was engaged to a prominent doctor named Harry Gordon, aka Holmes.
He can't keep his name straight.
I don't know how he knew if he was coming or going. I'm just telling you. Anyway, June of 1893, the couple is living as and claiming to be married, though there is never a record of the union ever happening. Minnie introduced her husband to her sister, Nanny.
Oh yeah, I remember Nanny.
Mm-hmm. Minnie and Nanny. Anyway, the three actually shared an apartment together. This was the 1800s version of Three's Company.
This man. He probably slept with Nene too. Nene, Nanny.
I think anything that identifies as a female is free game with this one.
I think so.
However, not long after moving into the apartment with Minnie and Nanny, the women disappeared. Dun, dun, dun.
Again.
That was like such a terrible face. Oh my gosh, I hope you all find me as funny as I apparently find myself, but I highly doubt it.
She's
Okay.
funny though.
Moving right along. So they disappeared and the apartment was vacated. Holmes continued to use Minnie's name to complete construction on the house that he was building for Murda and his daughter. He then tried to claim Minnie's inheritance and her Fort Worth land.
Tacky.
You didn't earn that money. You did not marry her. You did not earn her money.
He pretended to marry her, though.
No.
Yeah, he did.
They pretended they were married. He didn't pretend to marry her.
Oh.
They didn't have a fake wedding. They just was pretending they were husband and wife. True story. As far as we know. I mean, all of it's a bit much for me. I mean, you know, drama's one thing, but this is just insane.
Killing's another.
I don't know how I kept it all straight.
I really don't either. I mean, all the names he used and the
all the
women and businesses and I don't know. Anyway, here we go.
Okay, so in July of 1893, Holmes hired Joe Owens to do odd jobs and eventually gave him Minnie's old job, remember, as the secretary of the fake company. August 13th, 1893, Holmes began packing up the building and making arrangements for the items to be moved from the castle to the new house. Around 5 p.m., he left the building and boarded the train for Willamette. Not long after that, firefighters responded to a call of a blaze at the building. The fire was pretty much contained at the 3rd floor, and the only occupants at the time were the tenants on the 2nd floor, so luckily no one was hurt. Common thought was that Holmes had set the fire for the insurance money.
Of course he had.
However, the building and its contents were not in his name, so that scheme failed.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Remember, he had been using these women, and in some cases, like even his wife and her mother, he was using their names, so they would have been the recipients of the insurance.
He didn't think that one through.
He didn't. After the fire, he took to hiding, running from the over 100 lawsuits against him. To avoid detection, he had to wear disguises. Holmes fled from Chicago, leaving his wife and daughter behind. I feel like this reel is on repeat.
I was going to say, seems like we've heard that before.
Just saying. Okay, so we'll do one more section, and then I'm going to be up against a hard break because I have to watch the clock and we're getting close. So, quickly, always thinking of a con, Holmes reached out to longtime friend and an employee and convinced him to fake his death by collecting the insurance money. We've heard this one before. Benjamin Pitzel had fallen on hard times, so it didn't take much to get him on board. Holmes paid the premium on a hefty life insurance policy on Pitzel. Holmes bounced around the West, moving often and hitting up Denver and St. Louis before finally making his way to Fort Worth, Texas. Remember Minnie? In Texas, Holmes married again. Still not divorced from wife 1 or 2, but this time he marries a woman named Georgiana Yoke. Georgiana had been one of Holmes' mistresses back in Chicago. By all accounts, Holmes was actually taken with Georgiana. They were married in Texas on January 17, 1894, and he used the name H.M. Howard. This time, he did not marry for money. He married for love.
Finally.
Sweet. That's so sweet.
He's tried everybody else out.
Right? Pitzel was also in Texas with his son Howard. The two friends were there to claim the property that belonged to Minnie. Yep.
They can't do that, can they?
They successfully obtained the land under an alias that Holmes used. That alias was Alexander E. Bond.
Wonder where the H's went on that one.
I don't know. He ran out of H's. I wonder if that was the first indication of James Bond. Wonder if there's any Kim there.
I think that was Ebon, wasn't it?
Alexander E. Bond.
Like E as an initial?
An initial, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying Ebon.
No.
And
E, last name, Bond. James Bond.
E. Bond.
Sorry. Okay. Excuse me. So, once the land was his, the duo began construction on a building almost identical to the Chicago Castle, but on a much larger scale.
And it was pretty big.
It was. Again, a revolving door of workers built the building. Once workers started on the interior of the structure, only a few trusted crew members were allowed to work in the building. Like Chicago, the building contained unusual rooms, secret passageways, chambers, all this weird stuff that would make no sense to anybody.
Yeah.
However, the difference was in Chicago, he was using this building as a killing field, if you will, a fun house of horror. Thank you. In Texas, once the building was complete, he had absolutely no interest in it. The sole purpose of the building was to scam money from the loan companies and investors. Now, people in Fort Worth started becoming suspicious because they had not seen or heard from Minnie, and they knew that was her land. But there was no one to question because Holmes and Georgiana were long gone, having relocated to St. Louis.
They get around. He gets around.
Okay, so Holmes took work in yet another drugstore in St. Louis. He and his wife took an apartment nearby. Benjamin Patel, however you say his name, Benjamin, old Benny, had followed Holmes to St. Louis, but this time he brought along his wife Carrie and their 5 children. In July of 1894, Pitzel, that's how it said, Pitzel, I couldn't read my own writing, sorry. Pitzel said he was headed to Florida, or headed south to Florida for a business venture. Essentially what he told his wife was that he was going to Florida to pick up lumber to build a business venture. Anyway, while he was there, he wrote home telling his wife that he had fallen ill and a Dr. Holmes was treating him. Now, this is highly unlikely since Holmes was not in Florida. He was in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. So Holmes pays Carrie a visit, and he tells her about the plan to scam the insurance company. Carrie was adamant that she wanted nothing to do with the scam, but Holmes, being the charmer and the salesman that he is,
asked her on a date.
Probably, but he convinced her that everything would be okay. It would help provide for the family. It was all going to work out well. And so she reluctantly went along with things. Shortly after that, Holmes was briefly jailed for fraud. He literally left her house, went home, found officials at his house waiting for him to arrest him and take him into prison, charging him with fraud. But Georgiana was able to secure his release by putting up bail.
He's just back out on the street, I guess.
Georgiana saves the day. Once again, a woman saves the day for this man. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop. We're going to wrap it up. Lord, I hope we're going to wrap it up. I'm kind of tired of talking about this dude. Next time. But I will say this shorter, I'm still going to be at 50 minutes. I'm sorry. It's a learning process, so bear with me. But this shorter session thing is throwing me for a curve. So we'll get there and I'll figure it all out. But in the meantime, forgive our silliness. It will get better. The silliness will probably never go away because it's kind of who we are in our everyday lives. But maybe the professionalism will at some point come up to the level that the silliness maybe isn't quite as obvious. I don't know.
Maybe we won't have dogs yapping.
Maybe we won't be wrapped in sweet warm blankets. That feels so good.
So if we're here, we're probably going to be just
probably
like
will
this.
be. Yeah, it's probably just going to be a comfort show. So, anyway, in the meantime, be nice one ye to another, please. Be good to each other.
Be a nice human.
Be a nice human. Know better and do better. Tomorrow I'll have no voice, so I'm glad you all got to hear my voice today.
What's the matter with your voice? Anyway, we'll see you next
It's
time.
fading fast. All right, guys. Thanks so much. And like she said, we'll see you next time.